Hello Bridge Kids! Welcome to another story time, and this story is all about a man who wasn't afraid to stand up, he wasn't afraid to stand out, and God used him in incredible ways, and that is Daniel. So we are going to read the story of Daniel and the scary sleepover. Shall we find out what it's going to say? Okay, so it says that things were not looking good for God's people. They'd been captured and taken far from home, and now they were slaves of the king of Babylon. But God had not left his people. He was with them and he was looking after them. Daniel loved God and obeyed him. And now God made Daniel able to understand lots of different things. So it wasn't before long the king of Babylon noticed him. King Darius liked how clever Daniel was. So he made Daniel his most important helper of all and put him in charge of lots of other helpers. But the other helpers didn't like this. They wanted the king to like them the best. They wanted to get rid of Daniel. So they spied on Daniel. They tried to find things wrong with Daniel and things that they could go and tell the king. But you see, there wasn't anything. Nothing. They couldn't find anything wrong with Daniel at all. Except there was just one thing. Every day, 3 times a day, Daniel went to his room, closed the door, and prayed. They smiled to themselves. Oh, let's get the king to make a law. No one is allowed to pray to anyone except to the king. Daniel won't obey this law and he will be punished. Oh, not very nice. They were so pleased with themselves for being so clever and hurried off to tell the king. And the king liked their idea. He didn't know they were tricking him, so he made it into a law. Everyone must pray only to me. If you don't, the lions will have you for dinner. Daniel heard this, and he knew that it was wrong to pray to anyone else except God. And he had to do what God said, whatever it cost him, even if it meant he would die. So Daniel went to his room like he'd always done before, closed the door and prayed. And that's just what the bad men knew that Daniel would do. And they skipped straight off to tell the king. Oh, your most glittering highness, your law says, does it not, that everyone must pray to you alone, sire? Yes, said the king. Oh, magisterial brightness, then correct us if we're wrong, but it would seem as if Daniel is praying to God, not you. The king was sad. He had been tricked. He didn't want to hurt Daniel, but he couldn't change his law. And so he let the soldiers throw Daniel to the lions. May your God, who love you so much, rescue you, the king said. The king went back to his palace, but he didn't sleep that night, not a wink. He tossed and he turned until finally, the first glimmer of dawn, he leaped out of bed and ran straight to the den. Daniel, Daniel, he cried, has your God rescued you? Guess what? Yes, Daniel shouted. God sent an angel to close the lions' mouths. And there, resting his head on Daniel's lap, was the biggest lion, but he was purring like a little kitten. The king brought Daniel out of the den. Look, he said, Daniel doesn't even have a scratch anywhere. And the king made a new law. Daniel's God is the true God, the God who rescues. Pray to him instead. And you know what? God would keep on rescuing his people. And the time was coming when God would send another brave hero like Daniel, who would love God and do what God said, whatever it cost him, even if it meant he would die. And together they would pull off the greatest rescue the world has ever known. I love that story. I love that Daniel wasn't afraid to stand up, he wasn't afraid to stand out, he wasn't afraid to do what he had always done before and pray to God, because he knew that his God was greater and stronger, and he knew that whatever happened to him, his God would always be there, and he rescued him. How amazing. That has been our story time for this week, and we will see you soon. Bye, Bridge Kids!